Welcome to Whisperwood Stories. Today we're going to continue the story that I wrote for you for October. Get ready for Halloween. Are you enjoying this story? Remember that my Patreon will be one part ahead of the channel. Let's begin. The Ghost Wrangler, Part 4. We didn't stop riding until late into the night. We had to hurry, which made it a difficult ride, but I didn't know if anyone was after us or not. That comment from the postman about lawmen searching for an escaped outlaw made me nervous, so we didn't dare approach another trading post. Still, by midnight, we had to stop and give the horse a rest. We took a detour north of the road in order to evade prospective lawmen. It was usually better to stay off the main roads anyway. They call it highway robbery for a reason. We had a late dinner from some of the leftover boar the kid had stowed. Simmered and salted. The horse we had borrowed grazed nearby. Gotta say, it's handy to have a trapper around, I mumbled between bites. Maeve smiled.
Glad you think so. Told you I proved myself. By the way, did you notice? We just had a little joke.
What do you mean? I said, confused.
It was midnight just now, which means I did a midnight ride with Mr. Midnight Rider. I think I qualify to go down in the history books.
I blinked and chuckled. I almost choked. You did. Well done, baby. We were quiet for a time.
So, who's your friend we have to go see?
Maeve asked. He's a spiritual man in the outskirts of Stockton. If anyone knows where this Archaevelix is, it's him. I studied the horizon. I cursed and quickly scraped dirt onto the fire. It hissed into darkness. The air became very quiet.
Mr. Ryder, sir?
I pointed, and we watched as several riders traveled on the road south of us. We were quite a stretch north, but I could tell what they were. Lawmen. They had been tailing us after all. We laid on the ground to hide and watched the caravan head east. Of course, their destination seemed to be the town we needed to visit, Stockton. They were going to try and search for us there. I cursed under my breath. The truth is that I was in danger ever since I crossed the state border. If I stayed in this state too long, it was only a matter of time before they caught up with me. Damned lawmen. I had to be careful, had to get out of Dodge, but I needed to save the other Wranglers first. Guess I'd have to make this quick. We'll stay here for a spell longer. Stay the night. Let the lawmen get their excitement out, and we watch our backs from now on. Comprende? Maeve nodded. It was 10 minutes before the lawmen were completely off the horizon. They would likely leave no stone unturned until tomorrow, so we went to sleep. Maeve and I traded watches. After breakfast, we carefully headed to Stockton. Like other towns, it was growing fast. Not quite as large as Horstead, but it was respectable. The new coal mine in the slopes made for great profits. We arrived on the north side of town. That was where the mines were, in fact. We would have to make it the rest of the way through town, as my friend was in the south reaches. His name was Curio John, an old eccentric who went way back, but skilled in the occult. I'm sure Maeve would be happy to meet him too. They shared some abilities after all. We could perhaps have gone around Stockton to avoid the lawmen altogether, but that route wouldn't be without dangers of its own. Considering the East swampland started here, there were dangerous animals encounters that way, gators and the like. Gators usually minded their own business, just not if you were stomping around their turf.
Mr. Ryder, lawman,
Mavie whispered and pointed. Kid was right. A group of 4 or 5 were spreading out through the mining yard. They'd see us soon. The only place to really hide ourselves was in the mining ground somewhere, but the mine itself was guarded at the entrance. I thought for a moment before an idea occurred. Follow my lead. I led the horse to a nearby pile of coal slag. I knelt and grabbed handfuls of the soot and grayed myself up. The kids smiled and ruffled the dust into their hair. We were sufficiently dirt-caked moments later. I took off my frock and hat, then stowed them in the saddlebags. I tied an ascot over my lower face too, and lastly, grabbed a nearby pickaxe. I was a mine worker now.
Mr. Ryder, what about the horse? They might be looking for that too,
Mavie said. Good eye, kid. We grabbed more handfuls of soot and massaged them into the white horse. It was gray and dirty in no time. Just act natural, I whispered to Mavie through my ascot. Mavie nodded. The kid began picking through rocks like a bored child with daddy at work. It wasn't much longer before we were approached.
Excuse me, sir. Might I have a moment?
I stopped swinging the pickaxe and wiped sweat away. It smeared my forehead even further. What can I do you for, officer? Tried to pitch my voice differently.
We're just asking about town. We're looking for a man, child, and horse combo.
He looked me up and down, then at the kid.
White saddlebred horse, a real cowboy type with a frock and hat. Some scragglehead kid. Real dangerous. Have you seen such a trio?
My lord, what did this man do? I said.
Well, he's burned down a saloon in Cornerville, stolen from a bartender, caused a fistfight, threatened a gun store owner, and now stolen a horse. We believe this is a man that slipped our grasp about a year ago based on the description. Rugged, now bearded, one of the last stubborn outlaws.
I glanced at Mavie, who had their back to the officer. The kid's face bore a hefty weight of worry. A tense moment rose, one where the officer was studying me closer. I sweat for real this time. He seemed ready to say something more, until I laughed.
A horse, child, and man trio, is it? Besides ourselves, you mean?
The officer seemed hesitant, then cracked a grin. Friendliness always diffused a situation.
That's right, he said. Well, can't say that I've seen such a Wild West combo. I've been here work all day, and my wife Jezebel had to visit her Meemaw out of town, which is why I'm stuck with this little rascal.
I ruffled Mavie's hair to a poof of coal dust.
I see. Well, if you or your child do see something, just let us know, or even the local sheriff. He's a real dangerous outlaw.
He turned to go, and I felt relief, until he turned back, that was.
Say, I should ask for the record. What's your name, sir?
I didn't hesitate.
Marcus Wilbur. Well, Mr. Wilbur, it might not be my business, but don't you think your kid should have a mask? Black Lung ain't a joke now.
Right, surely. Slipped my mind is all. Thanks, officer. I handed the kid one of my ascots, and the lawman nodded. I watched as he left us be. The 3 lawmen wandered the coal yard for a time before finally moving along. I put the pickaxe down once they were gone.
Reminds me why I quit the mining trade years ago,
I said with a cough, holding my lower back.
That was some fine acting, Mr. Wheelbarrow.
That's wheelbarrow to you, I smirked. Not too bad yourself, kid. You play the perfect little rascal. Keeping on our disguises, we walked into town. I led the horse by the reins. I might have fooled the first officer, but it would be smart to rid myself of this horse as soon as possible. We'd likely have to ride when we went east, however, and this horse was quite tired. The lawman would likely be combing the stables too, though. We just have to hold on to it and wait. Luck was on our side somewhat as we went through town. The streets were busy enough that we blended in well. Considering that we weren't snagged by any officers, I'd say that we had good disguises. Still, it felt like mice walking in front of cats. This town was like many others in terms of growth. More shops, railroad tracks, a bank even, not to mention a few saloons. It was a strange sensation, seeing the one-horse towns become thriving metropolises. Horstead, for example, was named as such for that very reason, starting as a single grazing farm where one could buy horses. That was only a decade ago. Shook my head. This is how I knew I was getting old. My kid brother and I used to always scold our pa for his constant fond remembrances, but it seemed to be just a symptom of old age. Everything tasted a little more sour, the colors a little less bright. I glanced down at Mavie. Nothing made me feel older than watching that kid skip happily across the main street at my side. I smiled. If I really could pass along something useful, some piece of my experience even to some random kid, I supposed that was all I could ask for. Though, did I want Mavie to go through what I had? To be a ghost wrangler? I frowned. The land gradually became muddier as we walked. The occasional trees neighboring the town had grown in density to become a forest. We soon reached the end of the main road, the beginnings of the eastern swamps ahead of us. I stared out into the trees. Muggy, draped in vines and decorated by grime. The sound of uncountable critters clambering for dominance. The sign at the beginning of the swamp that said, "Stay on the path, Gator Country."
Is this it, Mr. Ryder?
Yep, this is it. I pulled my ascot down and the kid did too. Stay on the path now. Down south through this swamp was a small fishing settlement that thrived off of catching the local wildlife. At least it had been small the last time I visited. I only hoped Curio John was still there. The horse whined nervously as we went. I couldn't see any gators, but overcaution suited one well in these lands. Gators aren't usually interested in us, I said to Mavie's own nervous look. I smirked. Well, maybe they'd eat you because you're small. Make a nice little lunch. I mimmed Big Jaw's biting at Mavie, and the kid jumped sky high. They only just stopped themselves from running off.
Not funny,
Mavie stammered as I laughed. I don't know, seems pretty funny to me. Seeing that the kid's nervousness only accentuated after that, I only felt slightly bad. Here, you'll be safe higher up. I lifted Mavie onto the back of the horse, which seemed to help the animal calm down too. The fishing village came into view after 15 minutes. A gathering of raggedy shacks and fish cages, people all gathered together as they worked. It was still small. I even recognized some of the faces. It was nice to see that at least one place hadn't changed. People waved as we walked past. I waved back. The kindest folk I knew. We made our way to a shack near the south shore. The rivers here led out to the large lake that made their trade. Be on your best behavior. Curio John is a little jumpy, I said, and hitched my horse at the post. I knocked on the door. John, show me that friendly face. There was a pause before I heard the creak of the door and saw a single eye peering out.
I already told you, I won't drop prices any lower. If you want some so bad, why don't you go fish 'em out yourself?
I ain't much for fishing, you know that, I said. Curio John stopped, eyeing me up and down through the crack. He frowned, opened the door wide, and stepped out. He wiped the soot from my face. It made a smile bloom at the corner of his scarred eye.
Well, well. If I wasn't near blind and deaf, I'd think the Midnight Rider himself was at my doorstep.
You're just getting old, I said. We stared at each other before John laughed and pulled me in for a hug.
I ain't seen you in a spell, Daryl. What's it been, a year? The hell you doing back in this state? Law's bound to be sniffing up your hindquarters in no time flat.
They'll have to catch me first.
Ah, you ain't changed a bit, no sir. What can I help you with on this fine day?
It's a bit of a dire thing, otherwise I wouldn't have come back over state lines at all. Want to hear the tale?
Certainly. Don't be a stranger then. Come on in, come on in.
John waved us inside and we obliged. The place may as well have been a photograph for how much the same it was. The unruly scent of incense and garlic, a cross hanging on the wall beside the head of an albino gator. I remember that hunt. It was the same one that got John his scar. It all made me feel strangely at home. John must have a trademark on his unique flair of unorganized tidiness. Like I was just here yesterday, I said.
You know how I like the place, and I ain't changing. Neither heaven or hell is gonna switch me up. Well, go on then, sit. Can I get you something?
I wouldn't mind some coffee if you have it.
Sure enough, Daryl.
John looked at the kid as if realizing that they were there for the first time.
Well, well, how rude of me. What's your name, youngster?
Mavie, and this is Mr. Ryder,
the kid said.
Much obliged, John said with a chuckle. Is this your kid, Mr. Ryder?
Not quite. A skilled psychic, in fact. Our paths just happened to cross. John inspected the kid like a trinket he was considering at the corner pawn. Mavie stayed still, watching as John studied thoughtfully. They were staring at one another now, and I could guess what was going on. Head talking, as the kid had put it.
You're like me?
Mavie stammered aloud.
There are others like me?
True enough. Not many of us, though. Back in places like Massachusetts, they didn't take kindly to folk like us. Best keep your ability secret, you hear? Stay along the Mississippi, and you'll be just fine, John said.
Mavie nodded.
Let me get that coffee.
The kid smiled at me with excitement. I could tell the kid's questions were ready to burst by the time John came back with coffee. He gave the kid water.
How many of us are there? When did you learn about your powers? How does it work?
John chuckled and took a seat.
Well, what a wild mind we have here. Let's see. I know of 4 people now, like us. I learned about mine when I was quite young, but I was lucky that my mama knew all about it and taught me what I know. As for how it works,
John shrugged. Mavie looked ready to fire off another round of questions, but I raised an eyebrow, so the kid turned attention to their drink instead.
Aw, how come I don't get coffee?
Mavie whined.
'Cause it ain't good for little ones. Beats the heart like a drum, which is good for us old folks, but not young'uns. So what's the grim tale the legendary Midnight Rider has to tell?
Hunting a demon. High-class one. New in town within the last year, supposedly. Thought you might be able to help me get a trail on her. Otherwise, things could get hairy. John frowned and thought.
Ain't many high-ranking she-demons out of hell as far as I know. If you mean who I think you mean, I would advise against it.
Archivilics, I said.
Now why in the, pardon the pun, hell would you do something like that? Are you asking to be crucified, sir?
Someone's got to put her down, don't you think? I said.
Sure enough, but quite a few have tried and died, Daryl. Ain't no way you gonna flush that nail with a strike, which is all you're gonna get before you was torn asunder. Meet garlands strung at her devil dinner party.
Ew!
Mavie chuckled. Come on, every demon's got a weakness, I said.
Sure do. Surely as a river could be drunk dry if you had enough Wranglers, which you don't, by the way. Less and less by the hour, it seems. Law don't take kindly to Wild West outlaw types no more, ends justified or no.
I sighed. I'd been hoping to avoid the entire truth, but it seems John wouldn't give unless I did. Listen, John, I ain't doing this out of some prideful leap of faith, heavy on the faith. The fact is that the other Wranglers are in trouble. That's why I'm doing this.
The other Wranglers? What you mean? They otherwise indisposed or something? Too busy busting card games?
Took a sip of my coffee. John leaned forwards.
Oh shit, they're trapped?
I held my tin cup in my lap and coughed. John stood up quick-like.
Another demon has them hostage and won't let them go unless you end the she-demon's reign of terror? Jesus Christ almighty, Daryl. Damn, he's good,
Mavie said. Don't swear, I said.
Why? You swear?
'Cause kids have to do what the damn adults say. Mavie narrowed their eyes.
Are you just gonna bicker or are you gonna tell me what's going on?
John interjected. I sighed. Xander, remember that bastard? He was the one my brother and I was fighting a year ago. John nodded. Rest your poor brother's soul. I winced at that. Alistair found out that Xander has a nest in Horstead, and he went in alone. He's probably dead. Jane, Freddie, Mark, Jesse are all who he has in binds. If I don't kill Archaevelix, he kills them and me, and Demonkind runs free as a bird. He forced me to make a deal. John went wide-eyed.
A deal? You made a deal with Xander?
Like I said, I didn't have a choice. There's another reason, too. Turns out that I would be dead today, but my brother made a deal with Xander back then to trade his soul for mine. I have a connection with Xander now.
That kid brother of yours,
John shook his head.
Too sweet for his own good. Guess we always knew it was coming to something like this sooner or later. I hope you know we did try to avenge him, but Xander was slippery as an eel.
That he is. John stood and began sorting through his things.
What are you looking for, Mr. Curio, sir?
Mavie asked.
The time has come for special measures, kid.
He leaned down against the floorboards to reach far enough under his bed. He pulled out a dusty crate made of dark wood and lifted it with visible effort. He plopped it onto the table. A lamp shook as he did.
Here we are. Been waiting for the day these would come in handy. Still, I was hoping we wouldn't need these.
He opened the lid and dust spilled everywhere. I protected my drink from it as Mavie coughed.
Ooh, almost as dusty as it is heavy,
John said, pulling a strange object out of the crate. At first, I wasn't even sure what it was. It just seemed to be a lump of black metal in assorted pieces. But as John laid them out, I saw that they were shackles of a sort. The sort you don't get out of.
These were forged back in the old days. Haven't been used in almost as long either. Said to be fetters that can lock up your darkest secret or the strongest demon. Hell's denizens don't know these still exist or we'd be fending off constant trouble.
Lead? I muttered as I touched the metal surface. Chalky.
That's right, lead, but one secret lies within. Silver?
Mavie said with excitement.
Sharp eye, kid. A pure silver set in a way to nullify spirits within the shackles, essentially turning them to be no more special than you and I. Binds them to earth, so to speak.
Certainly unwieldy, I muttered.
These are older than your grandpap. Show some respect for your elders, John said. Lucky for you, a section of it perished, so it's lighter. Why don't you just have your psychic here hold it up?
Mavie frowned.
Me? Why do I have to carry it?
I don't think the kid's that far along, I said. When Mavie's confusion deepened, John made sure all of his shutters were closed before demonstrating. He squinted hard at the chains. To the kid's great surprise, they lifted without the aid of a hand. I smiled.
Whoa! I can do that?
Mavie said, when sweat came over John's brow. The chain set down with hefty clinks.
Woo! Ain't exercised that muscle in a minute. Why don't you go ahead and try it, kid? Just focus. Make moving this chain the only thing you want to accomplish.
The kid beamed with excitement and rushed over. Maybe gripped the edge of the table and stared in defiant concentration. I raised an eyebrow at John, who was hiding his own glee, but his smile soon fell. One side of the chains lifted.
Whoa there! Are you telling me you ain't never done this before?
John stammered in surprise.
No. Why?
Mavie strained. The chains fell to the table, and Mavie wiped sweat away.
Hey, why don't you go into my room just there and try to move small stuff? The adults need to talk. Just don't break anything,
John said. The kid rushed off into the other room with joy.
That's quite the kid you found, John said.
More like they found me. Ambushed me on the road and demanded to be my apprentice. John laughed.
I can picture it now. I'm surprised you didn't drop them off at the closest orphanage.
I almost did, but figured that wouldn't be the best place for a psychic. My idea was that I could leave the kid with one of the other Wranglers with more expertise, but when we got there, it trailed off. I sighed and prodded the chains. So these things would lock up archivelics?
It would, but Daryl, I have to ask. You aren't taking this kid with you, are you? It's dangerous enough for you to go near her, much more so for this kid.
I didn't plan on it, but the kid was with me when we met Xander. If I tried to hand them off now, Xander would swoop in and gather another hostage.
So you actually had to talk with Xander? Face to face? Forced to make a deal?
Yes. He was imitating Carl at first. Got my guard down. John shook his head.
I was wondering why you didn't mention Carl in that list earlier. He's dead as a doornail then if a demon can wear his skin. God help him.
If only, I muttered.
Well, you had better take this chain. If you can just get it nearer, the special silver inside should stall her just long enough for you to clap him on. Once you've done that, you'll be in the clear. No sooner, though.
What else have you got in that crate of yours?
Stuff for ghosts, mostly, but here, you might want this.
John handed me a silver stake. Not too special by its look alone. Partly tarnished, speckled with blood red and green rust spots. I took it. It felt strange to hold, like it was putting my arm to sleep. What is it? I said.
Things are real dire, it seems. Whatever you run this through will kill, soul and all. Unleash any tether to any entity. But it can only be used once. Works for yourself, too.
John left the rest unsaid. Thanks, John. We heard an exclamation from Mavie as something broke in the back room. A simultaneous,
Sorry, Mr. Curio, sir,
sounded.
Hey, I have an idea. Why don't you leave the kid here with me? John said. I can help Mavie find rhythm and peace with their ability. I remember just how hard it was growing up, having this ability and not being able to use it. I could find the kid a good spot in life.
I nodded. Despite my initial annoyance with Mavie, the idea of leaving the kid behind felt sad somehow. I took a deep breath. That would probably be for the best. John studied my look, then poked at my chest.
Well, by my stars, seems you've grown attached, dear Daryl. You do have a heart buried in there after all.
What?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
John ignored me and thought for a moment.
I will admit that even with me, the kid wouldn't be wholly safe from Xander. Maybe your side is the safest place for now, Daryl. How about this, then? Let's let the kid make the choice. Hell, if we all make it out of this alive, maybe we can then talk about better futures.
Law's after me. Maybe you too. Are you sure we have enough leverage to think better futures are ahead of us?
Fair, fair. It's true that we've all only been a step ahead for a while now. They're bound to catch up to us if we don't scoot soon. Still, I'll be here a minute yet, and I ain't as loud as you ghost wranglers.
I nodded, glancing at the floor. John would be able to help the kid. This little fishing town would be good, I expect. Besides, Mavie wouldn't be the first lost and afraid psychic John had trained. That included my kid brother.
One other thing, Daryl. If you want to find Archaevelix, there's only one place she'd be. A crossroads in between here and the far swamps, southeast. It was used for communing until she took it over. Abandoned saloon next to it called the Rusty Spoon. Bad business, that place. You could confront her there at her nest.
I nodded. Thanks for your help, John. Mavie, called the last, and the kid came running back in.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break it.
It's all right, John said. Look, that doesn't matter now. You have a choice to make.
Mavie blinked.
I do?
That's right.
John looked at me. Good old John here has proposed a great idea. You could stay here in this village and train your powers away from majority danger. John has trained other gifted kids like you before, and it would be a grand place to settle. I looked at John.
Or you have another option. Stay with Mr. Ryder, but know you'll be going into a real threat of danger. It's no laughing matter. The she-demon is a force to be reckoned with. There'd be no question of you going, but it seems you're too tied up in this for Xander to not do something. So, what do you say?
Maybe look between the two of us.
Can't I have both? Can't you come with us, Mr. Curio, sir?
Afraid I can't. Wouldn't be wise for Mr. Ryder and I to be seen together with the law scurrying about.
What'll it be, kid? I said. The kid looked between us with worry, then at the chain. The choice weighed on them almost as heavily as that lad. Perhaps it might seem unfair to make a child choose like this, but we were special folk in a real special circumstance. I only hoped that not making the kid stay with John was the right call. A determination crossed the kid's face that would scare any devil.
I'm still your apprentice. I have to go with you, Mr. Ryder, sir.
I scoffed a chuckle and smiled. Then pack up. It's time to go.
Be careful at that crossroad now, you hear? Try and trade that horse out,
John said, and waved.
Don't get eaten by gators,
Mavie called.
I'll do my best. Keep practicing holding things up now, you hear?
We walked through the fishing village with the horse in tow. I hoped that the lawman had grown bored by now and had settled out. I wouldn't need to trade this horse, and if we were careful, it would help me slip past the law yet again. We'd likely have to keep the horse covered in soot. It wouldn't surprise me to find out that the officer had asked every trading post to look out for a white saddlebred. Still, I knew of someone else in this town that might help. We walked down the uneven path, through the muggy air and bugs, until we once again reached the mining town of Stockton. I glanced down at Mavie, whose face was sharpened in focus. I raised an eyebrow. You good, kid? The kid didn't reply for a moment, straining, leaning, then falling over backwards. I glanced at the heavy backpack the kid held. I told you we could have the horse carry that, I warned.
I'm training my power like Mr. Curio taught me,
Mavie said, struggling to get up like a flipped-over beetle. I sighed and helped Mavie up, then lifting the backpack from the kid and hefting it onto the horse. The horse did not seem happy. Well, take a break, kid, otherwise you're gonna break your neck. Comprende?
Yeah.
I looked out into town. There didn't seem to be as many lawmen wandering the streets now. Still, I pulled my ascot back on and reapplied my dirty visage. I had the kid do the same. Don't look the lawman in the eye. Act sad and bored like you did at the mine, I said.
That'll be easy.
If you're so bored, we can take you back to Curio John.
No, I'm just kidding, Mr. Ryder, sir.
Good. We joined the crowded street. There were some lawmen about, but not nearly so many as before. Some had likely circled back to see if we went a different direction. When we passed said lawmen, if any kept their eye on us for too long, I began to cough heavily. Ugh, damn black lung! Ugh. That seemed to turn their attention away real quick.
When does Mama get back home?
Mavie whined loudly as a lawman approached us. Mama ain't coming home, little Timmy. I already told you that, now hush. It's time to get back to work in the mines. The lawman passed us by. I was as surprised as anyone that we got through the main street untouched. I wasn't as familiar with the new Stockton, but I knew there was an old trading post on the east end of town. If the same man still ran it, he hated lawmen almost as much as me. That was our chance. Sure enough, when we were approaching the building, we were in for a show.
Unless you got a warrant, I want you off my property, Uncle Sam. My dealings are of little concern to you.
Sir, we're just asking that you inform us of any...
I don't care if you're offering me butter biscuits on a Sunday. Get a warrant to get clear off my private property.
Two lawmen glared at the trading post owner, but did head off. They were in such a fume, in fact, that they ignored our trio as they passed. The owner was indeed the same man I knew. A country hick by all appearances, but holding the longest-running trading post this side of the state. We knew each other decently back in the day. I hoped he remembered me. Pulled down my ascot as we approached. He was about to walk inside before he saw us. He narrowed his eyes for a moment, then stared at my face. A gap-toothed smile greeted me.
Well, well, if it ain't my favorite outlaw. Did you curl a raccoon over your mouth, or is that an attempt at a beard?
Say that a little louder and your two friends might hear, Michael. I chuckled.
The law's as much my friend as yours, Daryl. I should have guessed it was you causing trouble. You wouldn't happen to know anything about a saloon fire, robbery, gun store, intimidation, and horse thieving, would you?
That's not the whole story, I said. He laughed up a storm.
If you're back in this state, there must be some real trouble. How can I help you?
I need to get to the Rusty Spoon. This horse is tuckered out. Can you give me a hand? Michael raised an eyebrow.
The Rusty Spoon? Guess you have been gone for a while. That place is closed down just a year ago. Swamp was a stupid place for a saloon anyway.
Something dangerous has made it a lair.
Ah, a demon, is it? Lord knows there's been one too many around here for my taste. Sure, I'll help you. Go show 'em what hell's really like, eh?
Michael ushered us aside.
I take it this is the white saddlebred the law's looking for?
That's right.
I'll send it off from the wilds north then. They'll find it and be rightly confused.
Thanks, Michael, I said. He led the horse around back and brought out a new one. I thought I was hallucinating for a moment. Its coat was black, sleek as oil.
Got you stunned, huh?
Michael said.
Figured you didn't have your own horse for a reason. Lost in the field?
You could say that. Devil's got her.
Real shame. She was quite the beaut. Well, if you're going to a crossroads, you'll need something reliable. This is one of the best I've got.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, it ain't wholly out of charity. With this, I consider us square. Don't like debts hanging over me. If I don't see you again soon, well, I'll see you in Hell's Bottom Lair.
He handed me the reins, and I gave him a salute. See you in hell, Michael. After putting our saddle on the black horse, I hoisted myself and the kid up, and we were off. Michael's words had me thinking, what if this was the last time I would see them? Not just Michael, but Curio John, the other Wranglers. Our loose, evil-fighting organization was falling to pieces, it seemed. I couldn't help but feel things were coming to an end. I suppose all things do eventually. This might well be my last ride. Meet them in hell indeed. tried not to let those thoughts turn me over far. No matter the outcome, I'd run a good life, saved innocents, exorcised demons and spirits alike. Nothing left to do but focus ahead. After all, the Reaper comes for all when time runs out. Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories. If you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The story in this video was read with the author's permission. Yeehaw! Thank you again for listening, and be sure to check out the Patreon, which will be one part ahead this month. And remember, don't let the shadows get too close. Good night, partner.